Well, I'm bald at heart, so
Yeah. Good morning, Dane. I am so honored and happy that you agreed to join me on this podcast this morning. How are you?
I'm fantastic and I'm glad and I'm looking forward to connecting and sharing and all the things, right?
All the things. I love it. Why don't we start with you just sharing a little bit more, maybe about your background, how you got into what you're doing. Your name is Coach Dane. So how did you arrive to that?
So well, I've been on Earth for quite a while, so it's really a long story. And Reader's Digest probably got it right before we had social media trying to condense it, right? So I mean, they really did before we knew what we were doing. And again, we talked about being Gen X, so being born between 65 and 80. At least
Mhm.
my grandparents for sure read Reader's Digest.
Yes.
Um, Truth be told, I mean, I was a high school athlete. Thought I was going to be a major league baseball player and realized I didn't really have the work ethic to make that happen. I just didn't. Um, and then I was kind of a lost kid. I went to college for a year, did not want to be there. Um, and I knew that making minimum wage was not going to get me very far in the world, and having a crappy car that I literally would pray before I got in it to hope it would start so that I could then get to pick up a check, like a paper check, and have enough money to put gas in it. Like God and I were talking, like, please, just let me get to, I worked at this airport in San Antonio, blah, blah. I
Been
joined the
there, done
service,
that.
right? I joined the military. I'm a military dependent. So my dad was active duty, was a physician, and all those things. And I got out. I got married at 19, and I always have to say, not because she was knocked up, because we really had wanted to. um, Unfortunately, we're not married today, and that's a whole nother conversation. Probably, or maybe we'll get into that too. But it all really started because my dad planted a seed.
Mm.
So I got out of the service. I'm 24 years old. I've got three children under the age of four. And he just took me to lunch and he said, "All right, buddy. So what's your plan?" I'm like, I think I'm going to go to school. But I wasn't fully committed. I just felt like, especially at that time, that's how you, at least everybody in my family, they went to college and they had a profession and all those
Mm.
things, right? And so my dad's like, "Well, I just started medical practice. If you go to massage therapy school, um, I can pay you $10 an hour." I'm like, hell yeah, that's a lot more than minimum wage or whatever. And in 1991, 92, that wasn't a bad wage with, I didn't have like 30 hours of college. But I remember going, what the hell is massage therapy? I don't even know what it is. Like, I have no idea, but it's going to pay me more money. Right. So
Yeah.
I enrolled in the community college and I went and took my first anatomy and physiology day. And I came back to my dad, I'm like, I'm out. There is no way I'm going to be able to make it in this class. And he's like, slow your roll. Back then, right? Get index cards, get like a key
Mm.
ring, with the muscles and the bones and all the things. And he would help me study and practice. I now have a graduate degree in exercise science. So I obviously was able to get through that. My dad became my mentor. My dad was an osteopath, and he didn't get his degree until he was 35 years old. So I was in eighth grade. So I used to go to the medical school with him, get in trouble for playing with the centrifuge or asking about specimens, and from third grade all the way to eighth grade. But I watched him, and he always put the person first.
Yes. Yes.
And I ended up managing his practice for 8 to 10 years, all the marketing, all that type stuff too. We're dealing with insurance companies and just learning. And really, a lot of it, I thought, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Like, if he would just pick up the speed and just go, right? Come on, we could have more patience. We could make more money. But he didn't really care. Like, I would knock on his door at 11:30 in the morning and say, I never called my dad at work out of respect.
Okay.
It was Dr. Boyle, right? His backyard, that dad wasn't really a drinker, but do you want a beer? Do you want a hamburger? That kind of thing. But
Yeah.
but I would knock on the door and I'd say, Dr. Boyle, the waiting room is full. And he'd be like, okay, I'll hurry up. And he'd go back and just take his time. Like, and I would bring him something to eat. Right. So that is really, fast forward. I finished my degree. I went and I was a high school teacher and coach. I taught biology and I taught physics and chemistry. And I loved the classroom and I loved the ball field or the track or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we're going from the 90s now to early 2000s, and gas in Texas. I live in Texas, got to $2 a gallon for the first time. Of course, I drive a pickup truck. I still drive a pickup truck.
Because you're
Um,
from Texas.
right, right. So I was like, I was making crap for money. I just liked the people in the school, the small town I was coaching in. But I still had three now middle school and high school kids to raise, and a mortgage and a car payment and all the things. I'm like, I can't stay here for $30,000 a year. So I started looking for, I would just call and say, hey, Suzy, what's open at your school? These are my qualifications and my certifications. And you would say, hey, this is open. And I randomly clicked on the local hospital website and they had a position for the community wellness director. And I'm like, I have every single qualification to do that. I wasn't a certified personal trainer at the time, but I have a graduate degree in exercise science, so I figured I could pass the test. So back then I would call HR day after day, looking for an interview, looking for an interview, looking for an
Yeah.
interview. And I literally remember getting up and saying, look, I believe I'm the right person for this job, but if I'm not, I want you to get the best person, just like you and I were talking earlier about bandwidth. Like
Yes.
you and I love what we do and we're meant to do it, but we're not everybody's cup of tea. F them, I drink coffee, but that's okay.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, I went into adult health and I absolutely, to this day, love it.
Yes.
And so I got to work with, all that. At that time, being 60 years old seemed old. It doesn't seem as old to me today, right? But it was 60, 70 or so, 80 and 90-year-olds coming in. I currently still have a 98 and a 90, 97 and 98-year-old client. But I absolutely love it. And what I learned more than anything from talking to my dad and then running that hospital-based wellness center, I've actually there's only two in the area and I've run them both, is the 6 inches between your ears is the most important real estate you've got.
Yes.
Right. One of the practices that's a really condensed version, but one of the practices I ask people when they come in my community and we try to age with awesomeness, and everybody in our community is a trailblazer, right? If you're a Dallas Cowboy fan or Arizona Cardinal fan, you have an identity into that community. And when we started, it's like, we need a title, not just age with awesomeness. What is that? And so on a Zoom call, we just started throwing things and somebody said, what about Trailblazer? So Google Trailblazers before AI, Google Trailblazer, right? And they're like, it's basically somebody's going to blaze a trail that's never been there before and invite people to join them. And I'm like, that's what I want.
Nice. I like it. I chose you to interview for this podcast just based on your TikTok, solely on your TikTok. That's how I found you.
Oh, thank you.
And so many things of what you're saying, like this is very intentional. My podcast is living intentional, but this is an intentional connection. I actually went to massage therapy school.
Really?
I'm a human anatomy nerd. I can completely geek out on it.
Me too.
And so I would just listen to you and I'm like, dang, I like that. But I do want to back up. What service of the military did you
So I served in the Air Force for 4 years.
Very cool.
My dad was in the Army and Air Force. One paid for college and one paid for medical school. And my granddad was a retired lieutenant colonel from the Army Air Corps to the Air Force. I didn't really want to just particularly follow their steps, if you want to know the truth, because I'm a pissed off middle class white kid that just didn't want to do what his daddy did.
Yeah.
And then I got a little older, was like, maybe you had more wisdom than I thought. and even though I went and enlisted, which is fine, my dad was like, I think that's wonderful, obviously, but his suggestion was for me to use my brain, not my brawn.
Yeah.
And he's, go get a career out of it. And he said, maybe the Navy or the Air Force. I didn't want to be on a ship. So the Air Force it was. And I lived in Fairbanks, Alaska.
I thank you for your service. I was a Navy wife for 4 years and then I upgraded and married a Marine. So I fully get and I support our veterans. I love it. So I just wanted to back up and just honor you and being a veteran because that's a very special place. So very cool. You said, hold on, I was looking at your form. I asked you what your occupation or your title is, and you said Unsexy Life Fitness Coach. Like, where did you come up with that? Because that is really cool and unique.
Well, I appreciate that. So I've said that here's the deal. And if you watch the TikToks and, I don't have a huge following on TikTok. I'm putting more consistent information. I'm not going to show you, I could, how to do a squat or a deadlift and you've talked about reading books. But anyway, I would always say, what I teach you, when I wasn't doing this in my 20s specifically, is unsexy because it's real. It's not clickbait. Mm-hmm. So I will help you if you want to lose weight, right? And I also will tell you it's unnatural as F. For millions of years, we fattened up during harvest. We try not to freaking die in the winter. So it's unnatural. So it was probably a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I have a really good friend that lives in Mexico, and we're not that far. So a couple-hour flight, I go down to Mexico City. He comes up, we hang out. And I just said that. Everything I say is unsexy. He goes, you need to tell people that.
I like it.
And so so I say it's the whole truth and nothing but the truth, right? Yeah. So I'm in my late 50s. I've been way heavier. I've probably been way more fit too when I was running marathons and stuff like that. But to get back there or do it, it takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort. I have gum on my desk. I can't chew this freaking piece of gum and be 10 pounds lighter because somebody on what sponsored ads on Facebook.
Right. And I always say, it's very raw and it's very real. Like my life, like I tell people all the time, I can't make up the things that happen in my life. Like
Right.
eventually I will write a book about all the things. And it's just very raw and real, but I like that because it is very getting to your healthiest, most intentional life is very unsexy. You're doing things that they're uncomfortable. They're things other people won't do. There are things that other people are going to judge you for.
Sure.
Oh, well, why are you focused on your protein? I don't know, because it's working for me right now. I mean,
Well, I posted the other day. So I had hernia surgery a little over a month ago, double hernia surgery, which I don't want to have again. I'm fine. I'm doing fine. But I decided to try intermittent fasting, and I am not an extremist at all. Yes, I've been blessed to run 3 marathons. Well, I finished, and people always like, it's not for me. It's not about the time. If I was really gifted, it'd be about the time. It's
mhm.
about the fact that I got up on a hot freaking Texas morning in the summer, sweat my ass off for 18 miles, and was wiped out. Right. But the whole idea is that we gotta go through it all. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning Monday through Friday. And a lot of my friends are like, that's really the middle of the night. Well, maybe so. But when I first decided to work for myself, and I didn't come into the health and wellness world as a personal trainer, I came in as the boss. Does that make sense? So when I took over the hospital wellness center that I talked about, I had all the details. So I managed personal trainers, group fitness instructors, front desk staff, community relations, multi-million-dollar budget. I wasn't doing the personal training stuff. But when I knew that I just wasn't fired up anymore, I'm a pretty fired up person.
Yeah.
And so I said, hey, I would call you. I said, hey, Suzy, I'm about to leave. I just want to let you know. I haven't announced it just yet. But if you had a personal trainer come to your door at 5 a.m., would that be something you want? And I made the price point where it was a no brainer.
Yeah.
But then it was all over the place. Some days it was 5, some days it was 6, some days it was out till 8, some days. And I was tired of sitting on the edge of my bed with my iPhone 3 or whatever it was, and deciding what time to get up and get a power bar and a cup of coffee and put on a baseball hat. I was like, I need to have a morning routine, which you said you have a morning routine.
Yes.
And so it's been a long time that I've done it. So it's pretty natural. Even on today's Saturday as we record, I slept till 5 something, which I know seems early for a lot of people. My body still goes up, tells me to go to the bathroom, but I can fall back asleep. So those are the unsexy things. And doing things on repeat, it's freaking boring.
It's very boring. And that is actually one of my next questions for you. Like, do you have certain habits or routines that you follow, and how hard were those to get into?
The second part of that question is probably the most important part. How hard was it to get into? Because so many people want to get up early in the morning and they're getting up at 8, and they want to get up at 6. That's 2 freaking hours. What if we go 5 minutes and get up at 7:55, do 5 minutes every day for 12 days? Now you're getting up an hour earlier. So I read the book, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Have you ever read that?
Yes, yes.
It spoke to me at the right time. So he said, don't hit the snooze. I quit hitting the snooze button. Quit. And Jocko says the first lie of the day is when you hit the snooze button. Just if you want to get up at 5:45, set the freaking alarm for 5:45. So what I teach too is that you don't have to be freaking perfect.
Yes.
If anybody's a man of a woman of faith, there's only one person ever walked on earth that's perfect. And no offense, Suzy, it's not you and it's not me.
Correct.
Right? So in that, and I'll talk about the routine, can I be successful 4 out of 7 days a week?
Yes.
I'm more successful today. But when we start,
yes.
I teach people 4 out of 7. Then can you be successful 3 weeks out of 4? Then can you be successful 8 months out of 12? You've won the year. You've had a pretty good year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So part of my routine, 4 a.m. The dogs are already at the foot of the bed. My corgis. I made it 50 some years, Suzy, without a dog on my bed, but now we have a corgi and we have a dog in the bed. And we have a border collie, Australian Shepherd, and Dodger's 12 years old, and they're ready by the door. By the time I use the restroom, I grab a robe, and I let the dogs out. And then the cat, same thing, comes. He's ready to eat. So I feed the animals. We're all about quality versus quantity, and I love
Yes.
good coffee. So we bought an espresso machine after coming back from Italy last year, and I make a delicious cup of coffee. I typically only have one now because again, it's quality
Mhm.
over quantity. So I have a cup of coffee. I sit down. I still have my Christmas tree is up in my living room 24/7,
Oh, fun.
365. It's kind of my guilty pleasure. I told you earlier I have grandkids. And
Uh-huh.
when they move back to Texas, like they call me Pop Up. Pop Up, why's your Christmas tree? I was like, because Jesus lives in my heart all the time. And they're like, okay.
Oh, that's
But
very cool.
I say that because the love seat is so close. And I
Yeah.
lost my dad about a decade ago,
I'm
really from
sorry.
complications of being morbidly obese.
Mm.
Dad and I could also geek out about mitochondria and sarcomeres and all those things. But emotionally, food was his drug of choice.
Yes.
And so I ask my dad for guidance every single day. I ask him or tell him I'm going to try to make him proud every day. So I start my day in some sort of silent meditation, prayer. People get kind of weirded out about that. So you don't have to be on your knees with your hands crossed. You can
Nope.
you can go in the mountains and whatever you want, right?
That's my
Then
favorite place to do it.
Me too. I think it was John Muir, and I might screw up this quote, but he said, I'd rather be in the mountains thinking about God than being in church thinking about being in the mountains.
Yes.
Right? So there's always dogs, coffee, silence, reading,
Mhm.
uninterrupted, because it's a commitment-free zone at 4 a.m.
Yes.
Although I actually do have people now that because of what I do and who I am that will message me at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I'm not really required to answer them back if I don't want to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm an avid reader. And then, so that probably takes, I don't know, it's 20 to 30 minutes. I try to get up a full hour before I don't have to. I get to either get on my first call, go in my garage as a fitness studio. And so I work out there or I love to ruck. So I carry weight on my back and I love to get outside. So my routine again, alarm, no snooze,
Hmm.
feed the animals, have my coffee. I mean, it happens pretty much 365 days a year, even if we have a place near the Texas coast. We bought an RV a couple years ago. It doesn't really change. Does that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then it's silence, it's prayer, it's reading. And then it can start with connection because to create space, to create growth, this was another friend of mine who's a coach like you.
Mhm.
He's like, you give too much access and you never shut down and you can't pour from an empty cup. We say that,
Yep.
many coaches say that. So my phone automatically goes on silent at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Okay.
And it doesn't even go off until 7 a.m. So it's 7 to 6 now. I may choose to answer you. I'm not going to be an ass.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? But you pick and choose. And sometimes I'll be like, hey, Suzy, Tanya, that's my wife's name. We're going to have dinner and we don't have our phones. We don't have the TV on. We don't have those things. If you give me a little bit, I'd be more than happy to connect or whatever the case may be. And people
Yeah.
then will respect your boundaries. And I think even our listeners need to create boundaries because if you don't create them,
Yes.
somebody's going to create them for you.
You want to know a really funny boundary that was created
Sure.
for me by a friend? So I function at high capacity in the morning. I do
Me too.
better. You want me to think critically. Like I have friends on the East Coast and I have a girlfriend, she'd be texting me like wanting numbers questions, like tracking things. So I'm a master tracker about stuff. Like at 8 o'clock at night, Arizona time. And I text her back, go to bed, go to bed.
Right.
Because 8 o'clock my time, I don't want to do numbers. Like and unless I have my glasses on, you don't want me reading stuff. So anyway, I was on a board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce, and there's two people that are extreme night owls. Like, and they'd be texting each other 11:30, 12:30 at night, whatever. But that's between them, right? So the one I didn't know this. The one had went around saying Suzy goes to bed at 8 o'clock. So I get a text from the other one saying, "Oh my God, it's 7:30. I know, but please, 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 can you read this email? Please, I need it proof right now." And I was like, what the heck? What is she freaking out? Like, she's like, I know it's almost your bedtime. And I'm just like, so at the next board meeting, I say something and then laughter bust out because the one had gone around saying that I go to bed at 8 o'clock. But it's true because I don't set my phone to do not disturb. I'm a mom and
Mhm.
I'm a parent, I'm a kid who takes care of elderly parents. So I've never set my phone to do not disturb. However, I will choose to not answer you, right? in different times. And there's people like my cousin was a CNA, she's working overnight. Or
Right.
I had certain clients that because they worked overnight, I'd answer them at 9:30 at
Of
night
course.
if I was awake. But that's based on their schedule, and that was like a mutual respect. And so my morning routine is huge for me. And I have an elaborate morning routine, but you know how it started? It started out with getting up, setting a timer, reading my Bible for 10 minutes. And when the timer went off, slamming the Bible shut.
Right.
Like no extension. Like I was just like, okay, I completed it. Check off success, celebrate my win. And then it's developed into this more elaborate, I drink my coffee, I drink my water, I stretch, I work out. And I have mentors that say the first 2 hours in the morning and the last 2 hours at night are the most important times of your day. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to create a night routine.
I agree with that too. Yeah.
I created this elaborate night routine. I told myself I was going to read at night. I don't critically think at night. How am I going to read at night?
Right.
And for 3 weeks, I was so upset with myself. And then one day, sitting there in my night routine, I went, what am I doing? My morning routine did not start an hour and a half long. It started with 10 minutes. So, like you
Absolutely.
said, the getting up early, can we get up 5 minutes, 10 minutes early? I think that sometimes with social media, especially, we look at somebody else's workout, we look at somebody else's morning routine, we look at somebody else's whatever. Maybe they haven't told you, but they didn't start that way. And if they did, honest to God, kudos to them because there's
Right.
that
But that's
1%.
right. Sorry to interrupt. That's their chapter 10. This is your chapter 1.
Yeah.
So as coaches, that's our job is to meet you where you are, right? To encourage them. But you're 100% right. Because my brother-in-law, a little bit older than me and overweight, he goes, I could never do what you do. I didn't start this way. You go back to when I was going to college, again, 3 kids, a mortgage, and in Texas, and maybe Arizona, it's breakfast tacos in the morning.
Yes.
You don't pack lunch. Now you're starving. Now I feel like you sell your soul if you eat fast food, but to each his own.
Right.
But then it was easy to drive and get chicken or a burger or whatever. And then one day when I was a high school coach, and every summer they would say, "Hey, coach, what size shirts do you need? Shorts and
Oh,
sneakers, right?" And you'd get the school uniform. And the first time I had to say double XL, I'm like, man, that's not good because I'll feel better because it's going to fit better. But I
mm-hmm.
realized I really hadn't been taking care of my own physical health. I was in survival mode.
Yes.
And many people are in survival mode. And then I think there's a movie in like 77 called Network, and he takes over the thing and he's like, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. And that's really, I think, when people reach out to you or reach out to me or
Yes.
follow us more, like, okay, I know something needs to change. I don't even know where to start. It's overwhelming.
Well, and even as a health coach, some people look at me and they're like, well, you have it all together, you have it, whatever. 21 days ago, I kid you not, 21 days ago, maybe it's 20 days ago, there was a picture of me taken on the way to the lake. And my family's tall, but I'm the shortest one, and we're kind of big bone. But I've never looked bigger than my sister in a picture, never looked bigger than my niece in a picture because my niece towers me, right? And the angle did me dirty. I'm not gonna lie, because the very next day, because I was pissed because I
Sure.
work hard. And so I took a picture the very next day and I'm like, okay, the angle did me dirty, but it was enough to make me mad to
Right.
then, so I texted my girlfriend and I was like, what is it that I got to do? Like, I'm doing all the things. What is it that I got to do? And I think that's even as a health coach, like you get to a point where you're going to plateau, where you're going to get mad at something and you
Sure.
need somebody else. And she said, you're doing all the things fitness. She goes, let's tighten up your nutrition.
Right.
And my first word was, oh,
Yeah.
but I coach nutrition. I coach nutrition. But the biggest struggle that I personally have, and I say it over and over to my clients, I can track everything in the world, but tracking what goes into my mouth irritates me. But it's the biggest win ever. And so I've tightened it up and I've been taking those pictures. And that's where I tell people tracking, however you track, whether you write it down, you put it in a phone app, you take a picture, this
Right.
tracking, and you're going to know what you need to do more of or less of based on your tracking. Because I think sometimes, like you said, we think like this in our head, we think we're drinking water all day long.
Right.
But if I asked you, how many ounces of water do you drink a day? Could you answer it?
The
Most
answer
people
most people is
cannot.
no. No, exactly.
They'll go, well, I think I drink. No, no, no. I know I drink a gallon of water every day because I measure it out of a gallon when I pour into my cup, you know? And so I think
Right,
sometimes
right,
as
exactly.
coaches, people think we have it all together. And I use my social media, at least I hope I do, to be vulnerable in that I have a picture that pissed me off. Like, and
Right.
now
And
I'm
it's a
tightening things
woman
down.
out there or a man out there that's gonna connect with that.
Yeah.
And that and when we share our stories are the most important part. They really,
100%.
really are. Because like when we got on here, you're like, well, you don't look old enough to do this. And I have a granddaughter that's 11, and thankfully I didn't have any children in high school,
Yeah.
you know? So, and I had three kids before I was 24. I'll be 58. So, and it's about attitude, and it's about movement, and it's about sleep, and it's about having the idea. So one of the things to come back to like your vision.
Mhm.
So can I do this? And I don't know. Do you actually, is this going to be like a video pod? I don't even know. I didn't
It's
ask.
gonna
Is
be
it gonna,
it's gonna be a video podcast, yes.
okay. Okay. So here we're going to ask everybody, if you're not driving, I'm going to ask you to do this, Suzy, close your eyes.
Okay.
Can you do that for me? I want you to envision that you're an 85-year-old woman, unless you identify as a man. That's a whole nother conversation. um, and I'm going to ask, we're not, it's silent time, which maybe is odd, like, but I want you to literally just think about what you look like, what your body feels like. Are you working? Are you traveling? Who's in your life? How do you feel when you get out of bed in the morning? What do you want to do? Who do you want to connect with? And what does that look like? Okay, now open your eyes and tell me the first thing you saw. We would normally do that longer and there's more
Yeah.
prompts, okay? But what is the first thing you like visually? What did you see as yourself as an 85-year-old woman?
Do you know what I honestly saw? It was a couple
Sure.
years ago. Okay. My friend and I ran a 5K, and this 85 or 87-year-old man kicked our ass. Like, didn't just like, and that's what I pictured.
Right?
I literally pictured being the 85-year-old woman and somebody who just turned 40 looking at me going, I want that.
And so that will, I think then we talk about, okay, now where are you now? What has been successful in your life, in your
Mm-hmm.
head, your heart, and your health, and we can dig into that more,
Mm-hmm.
right? What have been your biggest barriers, roadblocks?
Yep.
And let's create routines that work to improve your mindset, your emotional health, your head, heart, and then your physical, emotional, and spiritual health. But when you don't see a aging, decrepit old woman, right? And again,
Yep.
if we go, my mom will be 80 in less than a month. And she's starting to slow down and she's a little hunched over now. But trying to get my mom, who didn't have the same opportunities as my daughter or my granddaughter for athletics, it just because Title IX didn't happen until 1972. I was on Earth by 1972. So mom didn't
Right.
have it. So it's different. You can see that and you can do it. And that's what I call aging with awesomeness and being a
Yes.
badass and showing up. So I would say I want to be at the bar having a tequila shot with some young guy going, and you're the crass old man or old woman or whatever. And like, I'll keep up with you, little man, or whatever that looks like, and being
Yeah.
silly. I want to be 85, walking through the
Mm-hmm.
airport, carrying my own bag and being able to put it in the overhead compartment by myself, or I want to be on my own effing jet.
Yeah. Well, and you and I talked about it in a private message the other day about you said something about squats, and I was like, man, this morning was the day that I was cussing at squats because I have a love hate
Right?
relationship with squats. My friend always tells me you got to do squats so you can have a luxurious ass, and I'm like, I don't know that I want a luxurious ass, but I don't want a saggy one either.
Right. So,
And you said you
um,
got to use the bathroom the rest of your life, and I think that when you put it in that like daily place of do you like I know I work on all the time getting up off the couch without and this takes intention because naturally we push use our arms and push
for
up, right?
sure.
It's not because we need to sometimes. So I work very intentionally to go, well, now because my wrist is hurt, I'm not pushing up, so it's more helpful. But
Right.
just being able to get up off your chair without pushing up, like you're gonna need that when you get older.
100%. So imminent demise of the elderly often begins when they lose their lower body strength.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you can't get out of bed to the couch, to the kitchen, to church, or to have a coffee, a tea, a
Mhm.
cocktail, whatever, you don't do it. And you end up sitting
Right.
on the couch with the clicker, bitching about politics, bitching about the kids, and all the I don't want to do any of that. But the idea is you just don't have a purpose anymore.
Right.
And
And
you
you know what
become
I heard?
lonely.
I heard about as people age that they encourage them to walk 10 steps backwards every day. And it increases their balance. And I have older people in my life. Now, my mom is in a power wheelchair due to a back injury. But when she's at my house, I don't let the power wheelchair come in my house. To
Yep.
be honest, I value my walls. I don't want my walls bumped into.
Yeah, yeah, right.
But when she was here, staying here for a little while, she had to use her walker. And true, she didn't move around a ton. Like she'd go from the chair to her bedroom and different things. But I know for a fact that helping those legs get just a little bit more, are helping her right now as she's recovering from shoulder replacement surgery because
Right.
she's not able to do the things that she normally, right? She uses her arms to push up so much.
Of
She
course.
can't with that one that just got done. And so it's the little things. My dad will be 81 in October. He lives here. He's a feisty one. He was still out doing our landscaping. We have 4 acres. He was out, and my neighbors were like, "You make your dad do that?" I said, "I can't stop my dad."
Right.
Now
Right.
he got the shingles and it took him out and he does a whole lot less now, but his brain still has hope, right? Like he's still like, oh,
Huge.
he wants to travel to Philippines to meet someone. I'm like, okay. But I think it's that like he still wants to do it. And so my great uncle, when we took care of him, he was still walking around. He was still weed whacking the little front of his little yard until he was like 87 years old.
Right. No, we have to have the purpose. If you read blue zones and you investigate them,
Yes, I learned
right?
about that in school.
Yeah, so cool. I actually talked to Dan Buettner before that first book was published. It's so funny. So in a
Hmm.
little town called Seguin, Texas, between Austin and San Antonio,
I've been
his
there.
have you really? That's so funny. My wife works at the hospital there. That's where I ran the first wellness center. Anyway, his aunt was my volunteer at the hospital. And I was
Okay.
learning and talking, and she goes, I think you'd really like to talk to my nephew. And so we just had a great conversation. But purpose
Mhm.
is one of the, I'd say there's 7 pieces. He says 6. I say you have to take action. That's really the 7th.
Yes.
But our purpose, whether it is being healthy enough to travel to the Philippines, whether it is going to play bingo. I always joke about gardening. I didn't want to effing garden before I was older. I don't want to do it now either, but it is a really good thing to potentially do. But we
Yeah.
have purpose. And it can't, and if you read Blue Zones, a lot of it is their purpose for these men and women was to go to the market still,
Hmm.
buy all the food, come home and create and serve and sit with a meal with their family.
Well,
So
and
it
they
doesn't.
say that like I think it's in Italy, the whatever town has the steepest hills, like the longevity, the ages are better
So
there.
Sardinia, Italy, which is our next one of our big retreats in 2025. We're going to go in the summer of 25. Besides, it's gorgeous,
Yeah.
but I would like to be able to just naturally walk around, investigate, and pay attention to what people are doing. In a lot of the European cities, in Texas, we don't have many walkable cities if we have any. It's
Mm.
just so vast. And it wasn't built where you were living and you walk to your grocery store or to
Yes.
go see a show or go to school or any of those things. So they're designed, right? They put the suburbs, we don't have true suburbs, but suburbs outside of town and you go into town, but
Right.
there's not a lot of public transportation. We're not on the Northeast, where it's very prevalent, right? It just isn't. So we have to create the space and live with intention, do it on purpose.
On purpose, exactly. Well, this has honestly been really great, Dane. I can see you and I collaborating on a few more things in the future
I'd
just
love
because
to do that.
we align really well in a lot of that, other than the fact that you're from Texas. That's
Well,
that's
if we
that's
if we
another side
really
note.
get to it, I'm actually a Pennsylvania kid that
Okay.
moved to. So I'm still a Philadelphia Eagles fan, even in the state of Texas. But I've been here since I was 12. Moved away when I was active duty, but other than that, I did raise all 3 of my kiddos here. So I guess I'm a
My
Texan.
husband is born and raised Texan, and we always joke that I was never going to date a Texan, I was never going to marry a Texan, and here I am living the life. So,
I love
and
that.
I love Texas. I love traveling back there. So, well, I appreciate you being a part of this.
My pleasure.
What is something you want our audience to know about where they can find you, or who your ideal client is, or anything about your business as we wrap up?
For sure. So my ideal client is really is so I'll just tell you I do numbers too, right?
Mhm.
Average client is 48 years old. About 80% are women. Okay. Um, then they are women who are in transition, empty nest, career,
Mhm.
relationships primarily are the three main pieces. They don't look or feel like they did 20 years ago or more.
Yeah.
Typically, they're 20 pounds or more overweight. I'm just all the details, right?
Mhm.
And they've done Jenny Craig, they've done Weight Watchers,
Right.
they've done Slim Fast, they've done South Beach, you name it, soup, I would say cabbage patch, cabbage soup diet. They've done it all. And they often feel like they failed because they might have lost weight,
Mhm.
but they put the weight on plus friends, but they also know there's 20, 30, 40 years of life they want to live. How do I do it? And I'm tired of doing the same shit, getting different results.
Mhm.
And the health, wellness, fitness gurus are their children,
Yeah.
right? Well, come back to me 20 years from now. I didn't know any better in my 20s either.
Right.
So that's the the avatar, I guess, or the best client. But I want you to want to live. I want you to live your best life, a
Mm.
life of adventure. You don't have to run a 5K if you want to. Let's do it. You don't have to travel if you don't want to. But we're going to create multiple adventures throughout the year you can do with us. And if you don't do it with us, I want to make sure you can do it with your kids or your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever that is. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's ultimately somebody who wants to age with awesomeness,
I love it.
that wants to not be in the bell-shaped curve of the norm. And like I said earlier, just kind of, we're not consumers anymore. Like pop stars aren't writing songs to us much anymore. It's just,
Right.
they're right. Because we're not. Because now I'm trying to not buy shit so I can travel more. I don't need
Yes.
more shit in my house. Right. I've been here for 11 years. I got divorced however many years ago, and I have the same shit I did then, you
Right.
know? So it's somebody who wants to ultimately age with awesomeness, regain or maintain their health, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, and embrace their inner badass because there's an inner badass in there. And somebody told you to sit down and shut the up.
Amen.
And
Yes.
and now it's like, no, you're not in middle school. If you dance and you suck at it and you enjoy it, do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
Do it
Yes.
anyway. So that, and I get fired up. I love what I do. I don't, it's, yes, it's a career, it's a job. I've made it, but I don't ever, whether it's getting together with you on a weekend or somebody who needs just me to talk them down because they had an argument with their kid, again, late after the hours, it's fine. I have an SOS. Everybody gets an SOS on my community. You just text me and say, hey, can you talk? And I'm like, right now, if somebody texts me, it's on do not disturb, I'm not going to answer. But I
Yeah.
might have said, hey, you know what? I'm on a call. Are you available in an hour? And instead of getting on Zoom or Google Meet, I'll call you. What?
Yeah.
Hey, Suzy, how can I help you? Sometimes they just need a vent.
Yes.
I've had people that say, your energy just feeds me, and a client yelled at me today. I'm about to just lose it. And you just kind of talk me down. Like that's an SOS. That's what
Well,
it is.
your energy is contagious, and that's why I follow you on TikTok. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to ask him to interview him because he aligns, your message aligns. I love it. And I see you on your YouTube. It pops up because I subscribed to your channel.
Thank you.
I'm bad about getting over to my YouTube, even though I also post there, which is where this will be posted. But I see your stuff and it's amazing. So I hope that our listeners are going to connect with you and live their most badass life because that's what this is about.
Absolutely. Exactly. So, I mean, really, obviously, you can follow me at Unsexy Life Coach or Dane Boyle on TikTok. But on Facebook, I have a private, free
Okay.
Facebook community called Age with Awesomeness
And I will put that in the link when this gets posted for
for
sure.
sure. And I think that's so. I say I am full of energy. I am the reason I have a border collie because I'm a border collie in a human form. Um, but I want to make sure that people have a place, and I believe you and I as coaches need to provide free intellectual content at some
Yes.
level every single day. And I truly want to be your number one healthcare provider because we're going to live proactively. And although my dad was a physician, he ultimately had to live reactively because you only went to him when you were sick.
Yeah. And I have pretty much quit Western medicine. My naturopath who saved my life turned into one of my best friends.
Right.
And because I tell people all the time, Western medicine failed me huge. And so, yeah, I want to live proactive and not reactive.
Absolutely. And none of us are going to get out here alive. So let's make it the best life we can have.
Right? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being my guest.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.